My name is Catherine Chapman. I am from Professor Frankie's History 106 class, Introduction to Geography, and today I will be presenting my virtual tour project, and I will be taking you guys with me to Australia. So this is my travel itinerary. I traveled at 6 o'clock in the morning and stayed in LAX airport until I reached Sydney airport and arrived in Sydney, Australia at 6:55 a.m. in the morning. It was a 43-minute layover, so I just kind of chilled in LAX airport in the meantime before my flight for Sydney left at 10:45 p.m. So after I reached the airport, I booked a hotel. The hotel that I booked was Sydney Harbour YHA, The Rocks. I will talk a little bit more in detail later on as I go about my presentation of why it was called The Rocks. So from Sydney Airport to the hotel, I took a shuttle bus and I traveled 17.2 kilometers, which converts over to 10.7 miles. And so I spent over $22 in Australian dollars, but in US dollars that would be $16.84. So this is the first place that I traveled. I went to Hyde Park, and this is a very famous monument in Hyde Park. This is the Edmedian gun. This gun served as a monument from the battle between these two ships, the SMS Emedian, which was a German ship, and the HMAS Sydney, which was an Australian ship. A little fun fact about the Edmedian gun: on the front of the monument, it actually says that it was taken from the HMS Sydney and that it was given to the citizens of Sydney, Australia as a gift from the Commonwealth. So the Edmedian gun follows the theme of human geography, and human geography describes human groups and their activities. So according to City of Sydney, which is a site that lists all the different monuments, paintings, artifacts that are around Australia in Sydney, the Edmedian gun is a historical monument that was commissioned by the Council of the City of Sydney on August 20th, 1917. The Edmedian gun is a 4-inch gun, and it was recovered from the German ship SMS Edmedian. And as of fatalities, 4 Australians died as a result, while 16 were wounded, and more than 200 German crew members had also lost their lives. So on the monument, at the side and at the back, it shows the names of the Australians the 4 Australians who died and the 16 that were wounded, while on the back it lists the names of all the German crew members who also lost their lives. And from the hotel over to Hyde Park, traveling to see the Admedian gun, it was 2.3 kilometers, which was 1.4 miles that I traveled since I walked by foot. The next place where I went to, and this is a very truly significant artifact for me, I went to the Royal Botanic Gardens, and what you see here are carvings of the Aborigines of Australia, native groups that live in not native, but indigenous groups that live in Australia. And there are many that still live in Australia today, and these were carved in commemoration of them. So this is Wugan Muliga Farm Cove in English. So this follows the theme of cultural landscape and settlement. This was a sacred painting that was painted by artist Barbara L. Croft, and she is a part of the Gurindji people, the Gurindji nation. This painting artifact, it pays homage to the Yura, who are the original clan group of this sacred site. And it also shows an acknowledgement of the history of the Aborigines in Australia. And on the sidewalk, Barbara Croft carved in red one of the clans and the language groups. This is one of them. The image at the side here. This is one of them. The Kanangalgal clan and their language group, which is Daruk. And I traveled 2.2 kilometers. And the total miles that I traveled is 1.3. Moving on. The Big Dig Archaeology Education Center. So, this is actually the hotel, the YHA, Sydney Harbour YHA Hotel. And the reason why it's called The Rocks is because of the Big Dig site is built adjacent on top of, next to this site. And the Big Dig Archaeology Education Center follows the theme of earth science tradition. So according to their website, the Big Dig site is an area of land that contains archaeological remains from the late 18th century at the time of Australia's first European settlement. So, the Rocks, which is the site right here, these rocks were home to the convicts that arrived within the First Fleet in the year of 1778, and this area was known as the Talawahada by the Gagdial people of the Eora Nation. And the miles that I traveled by foot are 19 miles. The next place that I went to, and this is very, very famous, of course, none other than Sydney Harbour Bridge. Sydney Harbour Bridge is very infamous in Australia, mostly because there are many ways of being able to see the Sydney Harbour Bridge. You could travel by ferry. You could even climb. Some people climb the Sydney Harbour Bridge, climb the stairs, and make their way up to see the beautiful view. So the Sydney Harbour Bridge corresponds with the theme of physical geography. So, according to Sydney.com, Sydney Harbour Bridge is one of the largest steel bridges in the world, with the arc spanning over 503 meters. So, fun fact, this iconic bridge took over 8 years to build, using 53,000 tons of steel and 6 million hand-driven rivets. The pylon granite, which is the material that was built in making the Sydney Harbour Bridge, it was quarried near Moorea on the NSW South Coast. The founder of the bridge is J.J.C. Bradfield, and he was an engineer. And I traveled 1.7 kilometers, which is 10.5 miles traveled. And last but not least, the Paddington War Memorial. So, the Paddington War Memorial follows the theme of political geography, and the structure of the memorial is reminiscent of the monuments from the 1920s and 30s, as it's shown to appeal to an art decorative style that is typical of that time period. And names of those who served in the First World War are engraved in the stone of the monument. And this memorial corresponds with the theme of political geography because war memorials serve as a reminder of lives that were lost in the war. So it would only be justifiable that it would correspond with political geography, as the First World War is a war that remains timeless throughout history and throughout history books. So, 7.6 kilometers, and that equates to 4.7 miles that I traveled by foot and walking. And finally, returning home from Sydney, Australia to Bloomfield. So I traveled at 10:30 in the morning. It was an overnight trip. Reached San Francisco International Airport at 7 o'clock in the morning. There was a 1 hour and 50-minute layover. Boarded my flight for home at 8:50 in the morning from San Francisco Airport. And it was about 5 hours and 18 minutes until I reached EWR, which is Newark Liberty International Airport, at 5:08 p.m., traveling through economy with United Airlines. Thank you so much for joining me on my virtual world tour. I hope you enjoyed my presentation.